Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Homecare Hot Seat. Today I'm joined by Mark Collier, the Managing Director of Manchester-based Beloved Homecare. He'll be talking to me about his second outstanding CQC rating and the secrets of his success. Welcome Mark. Thank you so much for joining me today. So I firstly wanted to ask you about your recent second outstanding rating from the CQC, which you received in December. That was only your third inspection, is that right? Since you launched in 2015, yeah.
Right.
And you received the top rating for 4 out of 5 key lines of inquiry. What was your initial reaction to this? Was it something you expected?
Well, just going back to the 2018 inspection report, because of the circumstances and the climate, we were absolutely euphoric at the time to get that inspection rating. Not being a damp squid, but when the second rating came through in December 20, it was more of a relief, really, because of the climate that we're operating in. We were delighted, but there's a lot more going on in the world, so you've got to put things in perspective, I guess. Yeah, there was a lot of work to do with the 2020 inspection, but yeah, we were good. We started to plan at the beginning of 2020 to make improvements. All the management team were tasked with different goals and KPIs. So I don't want to sound deceitful, but we did expect, we did expect it because we put a lot of work in,
right?
In the interim.
Yeah, and your second inspection was obviously during the pandemic, and it was a virtual one. Could you describe that experience and how it worked?
Yeah, sure. Well, the difference between the one in 2018 and the 2020 was the one in 2018 was a visit to the premises. So that was a week in duration. So for the first sort of couple of days of that inspection, it was very, very busy. For the virtual one, it was 5 days that we were really, really busy. We had to take somebody out, one of the management team out of the workflow, and just get them dedicated to providing all the information. So it was 5 days out of the office. I mean, the inspector was extremely professional, but it was just a bit daunting when you saw the email coming through. It was like a 5-page email of what they needed. And I'm sure it wasn't, but the virtual inspections felt more evidence-based. The sky is blue. You make an assertion, the sky is blue. Well, prove the sky is blue. So you had to back it up with emails and files and documentation. It was a lot easier when we had an inspector on the premises because you can converse, but everything was by email. The other difference was there was a pharmacist in the second inspection, specialist pharmacist who did the medications, risk assessment, etc. But on the whole, it took longer. It took 4 weeks, but we got there.
So could you tell me about the key contributors to both the outstanding ratings? I believe the second inspection was covering 2 elements, wasn't it? Is that right?
It was, yeah. The second inspection was covering well-led and safe. And we kept our ratings for the other 3 key lines of inquiry. No secrets really, Sarah. It's hard work. A team who understood the vision and the objectives. So as I say, we're all sitting down saying what we're going to do for the next 12 months. The management team have a big input into what we do and how we do it. So yeah, team who understood the values and the vision. Carers, who understand the values and the vision, and everyone understood the roles. And I think it's important, at whatever level, you always discuss with people what contribution they're making, and why we're actually doing this. Why we're here, why do we exist? When we exist, we like little strap lines, like to make elderly people's lives in the twilight years the best that we possibly can. So it's just little memory joggers for all the team, really. and finding out what motivates different people, I guess. It's basic common sense. So yeah, we improved the processes. We focused on person-centered care. We're great believers in not one size doesn't fit all. So we work because of our size. We're quite small, so we can be quite nimble and we can be quite proactive, and we can change things because, you know, elderly people, if they have a fall or, you know, the circumstances change, you need to be nimble and you need to change things. So yeah, above and beyond. And I think that we go above and beyond that. And I think the fact that the family, we have 5 family members in an office team of 8.
Right.
So their commitment is just unbelievable.
And we'll go back to the history and of the company later. Just going back to the CQC report, one of the points that was made was that you've introduced creative and innovative ways to enhance people's safety during your last inspection. Could you provide some examples of that?
Yeah, certainly. That's a nice, very complimentary statement, isn't it?
Yeah.
We introduced technology. It was technology that can be accessed by families. It can be technology that can be accessed by carers. It can be technology that can be accessed by the management team. So the main focus in it is it's a risk mitigation tool to help us improve on safety. So, for instance, if a carer forgets to administer medication, we get real-time prompts, you know, that come through straight away saying, you know, carer hasn't given medication, and there might be a reason for that, but you know, it just gives us an opportunity to stay ahead of the game. We look at every individual client on an individual basis, as I say. Things like there was one particular client, he had a huge kettle and he liked to make himself a cup of tea, and he's wandering around in his kitchen with this boiling water, and we'd just taken him on. So we just basically, we had a 1-cup kettle down in the basement. So with his family and with his agreement, we just gave him that. So I guess there's loads of examples, but it's just bespoke solutions for each person. It's not rocket science. It's treating your clients how you want to be treated.
Okay. And speaking of innovation and technology, you're getting involved in a pilot scheme with a group called Secure Meters, I believe, to enable families to keep in touch more efficiently with their loved ones and also to feedback on their care. Could you tell us more about this? Yes,
certainly. Well, Secure Meters are a huge company, and we're quite privileged to be in the position where we're in collaboration with them. They offer a product called Beanbag Care, which I know you know about, and you've spoken to Paul. We've done a lot of we've done a lot of work with integration and systems planning, but because of the government guidelines, regulations, people going into people's houses to put the systems in place, you know, we've had to shelve that. So we are in a position where we've done all the integrations, we've tested all the software, and that their system speaks to our system, etc. And we've done all the planning. We put ourselves in elderly people's shoes regarding, you know, contacting families. Some senior people are very proud, and they don't express the feelings. And you know, at the best of times, Sarah, they're lonely people. So they don't like to mither the family. So we wanted to offer a solution where they get their own iPad that's given them free, and they can make contact with the families. They get a little bit of training on it. I mean, research has shown that elderly people are quite good on iPads and mobile phones. I'm the exception, by the way. I'm useless.
Well, you're not elderly.
Thank you, Sarah. So that was the contact sort of part, but the feedback part was that it's a competitive market out there. We want to stay ahead. we're only as good as our last visit. You know, I never forget Sir Alex. Sir Alex is a real guy that I read a lot of his books. He says that we're only as good as our last game, and you know, we're only as good as our last visit. So we want to benchmark our quality. We want to get actionable data. We want to get more consistency across the board, and you know, identify any training requirements for our carers. You know, a client may like one carer and then rate them well after the visit, and then may not rate the other carer after another visit. The client's able to rate their visits after the visit. So it's very simple. They just press a smiley face or not a smiley face or somewhere in between. So it's quite simple to use, but it's effective. So, you know, we want to improve our service further.
Talking again about the history of Beloved Care and how it came about, like many entrepreneurs in this sector, you started your business after experiencing firsthand the struggles of finding quality care for a loved one. Could you tell our viewers about that?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah. My dad died in 2004, and I think he'd sort of protected my mother a little bit. You know, in his latter years, she used to come out with some really funny things, and I think that was the early stages of dementia and Alzheimer's. So when he died, it became apparent that you know, she didn't have sort of full mental capacity. Took her to the doctors, and she was diagnosed in 2006 with Alzheimer's. And before my father died, he always said, "I don't want your mother, you know, if you can avoid it, going into a residential care home. I want her to stay at home." My mother, so she was diagnosed in 2006. She died in 2011. I'm an only child. I wasn't one of those spoiled only childs. I was one of these only childs that didn't get anything. I think I used to watch a black and white telly through a balloon because all the other kids had a colour telly. I didn't, so it was one of those. I took advice off. I think it was a social worker. She was really, really good, but I think I thought I only had access to like a framework provider. So I mean, on the whole, the care was okay, but it did cause me a bit more stress than, you know, I wanted. So I'd get calls, you know, for instance, many a night saying, "Hello, it's the carer here. And I'm not blaming the carers at all. What's the key safe number to get into your mum's?" And I'm thinking, surely they must have some processes and systems in place. So yeah, and then my mother went into a residential home, which was really, really good. I knew the owner there, and she was really kind. It was only for a couple of months that she went there. So after that sort of experience, and if I knew now what I knew then, I'd be much better prepared. So the thing I took from that is families out there need not just a good care service, they need some added value and a bit of advice and somebody to turn to. So I'm not saying that we get involved in the nitty-gritty of, you know, can you get a direct payment and how much it is. We don't sort of do that. But our aim is, well, our mission statement is you know, to be the best care provider in Trafford and in the eyes of healthcare professionals, our staff and our clients. So I just thought I could set this business up and do it well.
And you were previously working in the banking sector. You were there 35 years. So changing careers must have been quite a scary process for you.
Yes. But I think what you need to know, Sarah, is that I was actually made redundant in 2013. So, and if I'm really honest, I couldn't get another job in banking. You know, I went for lots of interviews, even though I did say to Wendy years ago, you know, I'll set up this bit. I want to set up this business. You know, I just thought, oh, I'll see my time out to retirement maybe. And I couldn't get another job. And I thought, this must be fate. This must be my time. Well, just winding it back a bit, I was an associate schoolboy at Oldham Athletic Football Club. And then when it came to giving apprenticeships out, they said, you're not good enough, you know, you're not committed. And I wasn't dedicated enough. So that was my first choice. I went working in a bank. And I think for the first 2 years, this was real good character building. I was stuffing stuffing statements in envelopes, 7 hours, 5 days a week. So yeah, so I had a good career in the bank. They invested a lot of time and money in me, and I met some good people, and they mentored me. And so I grew. It's incredible how someone like me managed to get to sort of a director level in the bank. And in my later career, I used to sort of manage clients, manage customers of all who own businesses, and I used to advise them on, you know, and give them added value on what to do, etc. Lend them money. So we had to do a full assessment of companies to see, you know, if the bank deemed them to be good enough to have the money and repay it, etc. So I felt a bit of a fraud that I was advising all these people on what to do, yet I'd not done it myself, if you know what I mean. Yeah. So in the end, I thought, right, okay, I'm going to go for this challenge. I can do it. So I had family backing and Wendy's backing, and just went for it.
Mm. Yeah.
The rest is
history. Yeah. But you obviously had that you know, kind of experience of knowing what to do in terms of setting up a business, but without that care background and a business model to follow, how did you know where to start with it all?
Winged it. No, no, didn't. I think my wife Wendy was who's my registered care manager, had spent 20 years in an elderly people's assessment unit within the NHS. So I had her support, even though she didn't join me for 6 months because she wanted to see if it'd be a success. And I had, you know, the support of my sons. I'm a quick learner when I want to be, Sarah. Okay, so so the care angle was taken care by Wendy. I did some exams as well. I think I got up to level 3 on certain exams. I mean, there are common traits within successful businesses. You know, is there a demand for a service there? You know, is the individual able to do a proper comprehensive business plan? Can they do financial planning? And I did research. You know, I researched. I went to visit social workers. I went to speak to carers. I went to visit service users. So I did a plan. One of my objectives is that I wanted to be an outstanding service within the first 5 years of operation, and we got it within 3 years, which was amazing. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've heard people who are more learned than me say that it used to be Brian Clough, but he's passed away now. But they say Sir Alex could run any business. So there is common, if you surround yourself with good people, you know, you can do it.
Mm-hmm. And when did your family members get on board? I know you said Wendy joined after 6 months. Or what about your family members?
Michael joined in 2015, then he went off to do something else a couple of years later, and then Alex joined. Alex is sort of 22 years old, hugely capable, like all staff. So I had to put that fire out, really, because, you know, could I run my business, you know, after being a bank manager and bank director? Could I do it myself? You know, and I get very energized with new projects. You know, sometimes I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning when I'm having a creative spell and start writing down lots of ideas. Goodness knows why it's 5 o'clock. They don't happen as often as they used to. So you have to, out of adversity, you know, sometimes I'd heard that saying before, you know, when one door shuts, another opens, and it never really happened to me. You know, all the doors are sort of shut in my, not really, but this one, it was a risk. Yeah.
So what were the main challenges that you faced when you first started, and was there anything about the home care sector that took you by surprise?
Yeah, the main challenge was convincing people I'd not gone off my nuts, actually, at 53 years old, having had a successful career in the bank. people were saying, so why don't you just retire and take your pension and play golf? So that was a huge challenge, really. So convincing people I was of sound mind. But that was true. On a serious note, though, attracting clients, that was difficult. We had no track record, and that's made me more empathetic now with new startups. Everybody should be given an opportunity. Recruiting the right carers, that was a challenge, because you maybe get one client, who wanted a 1 hour lunch call, and that was it. So the carer would have 1 hour lunch call, and that would be it. But so we had to influence and set out our aims for our first few carers and get their buy-in, I guess. And another challenge was really getting the outside world to believe my plan. I can remember going to see healthcare professionals, I won't name any, and I'd be telling them about my vision, and you could just sort of see the head nodding and thinking, oh, I've heard all this nonsense before.
Yeah.
So yeah, just believe. But the main problems were attracting clients and attracting the right carers, and also keeping a lid on burning of cash, because it's very, very difficult to set up a new business. It can burn cash quickly.
So how has your company evolved in terms of the growth of your team and client base and then the services that you offer since the launch?
Okay. Well, we're a steady service. We're not, by that I mean we're not the biggest, but we want to be the best. So it's about, you've heard it loads of times before, but it does resonate with it. It's quality, not quantity. We have moved to larger premises because we've improved our training facilities. So we have our training room, one of our training rooms, kitted out like an old person's house, with lots of obstacles in the way, which can represent a person's house. So the carers are trying to get around that. All safe, health and safety compliant, of course. So we moved to larger premises, more family joined. We're still small and personal. We're nimble. We are person-centered. We work very, very closely with families. I've always said that it's very important to win families over. It's not just the client; it's the families that you need to win over as well. We've had opportunities to take on lots of other types of work, for instance, brain injury work. But I believe it's best to stick to what you know best. So we tend to specialise in elderly care. Not that we're not inclusive, we have a couple of clients who've got cerebral palsy, but we don't want our carers going to someone with mental health issues one visit and then an elderly person with Alzheimer's the next. I think you've got to nail your colours to the mast, stick to your specialisation, focus on that, and exceed expectations in that particular specialisation.
So in your first ever inspection, you were rated good. What would you say are the key differences between a good and an outstanding home care provider?
Good question, Sarah. I'd say attention to detail. The little things matter. We're very proactive to the changing needs of a client, of a person. We work closely with families. Systems and processes have got to be absolutely spot on. We continually evaluate the service and improvements. As I mentioned before, we take, not that we get many, we take complaints as opportunities. We know what we're good at and focus. Recruiting the right people, you've just got to recruit the right people with the right values. And if you don't get the right people, it's a short-term fix, I guess. And as you know, recruitment in this sector is very difficult to get the right people. So, we get lots of applications every month and we take on very few. Yeah. So again, it's common sense and quality over quantity.